Introducing Let's Talk Youth, a Utidia Talk Show powered by YouthUp Global. This program is a youth-focused virtual talk show where leaders are invited to discuss programs and projects for youth empowerment and engagement, focusing on addressing skill gap and unemployment among youths in developing countries, providing economic empowerment and encouraging youth inclusion programs across institutions and governments of developing countries, encouraging youth participation and engagement towards actualizing the 17 SDGs in developing countries. We are excited to invite you to join us on this revolutionary talk show, Let's Talk Youth.
Oh, wow. It's so good to have you, Dr. Shadrach. Thank you so much for making the time to come out and give youth the opportunity to explore, to make the most of their life. So viewers, you're very welcome. This is eventually the maiden edition of Let's Talk Youth. I mean, we have looked forward to this event. We have looked forward to this program because beyond today, we're going to have several thought leaders coming from all over the world to share opportunities for young people to bridge the gap of unemployment, bridge skill gap, and also partner to deliver on the 17 SDGs of the United Nations. So we have our first guest for today. I mean, he's such an amazing personality. He's such an amazing human. He's renowned as the Africa's blockchain baron. I mean, nobody else has that, and then he's also the co-founder together with his pretty wife, and he's also the co-founder of Coronet Blockchain. So, ladies and gentlemen, I know you're as excited as I am. We have looked forward to this event for such a long time now. Please join me. Welcome, Mr. Shadrach Kubayan. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you kindly. It's a great delight to be here with the Utidia side of the family. It's a great reunion indeed. Much appreciated, Okomo, for your courteous hosting. Looking forward to a robust conversation that hopefully gets that young man off the couch and that young lady off the couch and put them to work. Thank you kindly.
Very interesting, very interesting. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to come on this show. Thank you. All right, so I know you're set, viewers. I know you're as excited as I am. This is going to be very insightful. I like you to focus. I like you to concentrate, get your right materials ready. I mean, there are loads and loads of value to be released from this amazing personality that you both have with me. All right, so just sit tight, be ready, ensure that you are not distracted, because trust me, this is going to be an eye-opener. This is going to be such a great opportunity for you to learn, for you to know what opportunities are there that you need to connect with. It's global news. Sorry to say that there's unemployment, there's no job, people are unskilled, and several other challenges that we are faced with globally. But I believe, and through this program, we are going to let you understand how that we do not really have a lack of job problem. We only have a lack of opportunity accessibility. By that, I mean that we are not out of jobs per se. We're only out of people who are insensitive to opportunities. We're only out of people who are sensitive, rather, to opportunities to be able to harness, their skills and put to work that which they can do so that we have a better flow in society. One more time, please, ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome Mr. Shadrach Kubayan. Thank you.
Thank you kindly, Akomo. Great to be here.
You're very welcome, sir. So we're going to go straight into the discussion session. And for those viewers who do not know who you are, I mean, you have a very, very robust record. Can you please share a little bit of your experience about your journey from where you started up until where you are today?
Thank you kindly. It is a pleasure to do that. Most of the audiences today may identify with my background. I often say I'm a villager at heart, having been born and bred back in the village at the intersection of what was 3 countries in the southern region of Africa. So I grew up having a front row seat on what a united Africa looks like, because as a villager, I was exposed to about eight or 9 languages at a very young age while growing up. And also as a villager, I was exposed to the art and science of innovation, because if you don't problem solve back in the village where I had my humble beginning, if you're not a problem solver, you don't eat. If you don't respect the elders, you don't eat. What does that look like today? What that means is, today, you can't be a young man or young lady on the couch waiting for opportunities. You gotta go out there and actually fetch or create opportunities. Thanks to my village beginnings, I was a hunter from an age of 5 years old. So I had to learn hunting while I was 5, you know. And you know what? Something that you mentioned earlier on about access to opportunities and inclusion. When I was a young man, access meant I had to go into the forest and compete with the cobra, compete with the python for my meal. So if anybody on this show today feels like the competition is tight, just say a prayer for me, for that young man who was 5 years old. And the competition for me is that he could be eaten while he's trying to get something to eat. He could be eaten. So that was my reality. And today I'm here, I made it, and I thank God for that. But those muscle memories that were harnessed from back there, where you learn to live with, a population from 3 different countries that now became regions or became provinces. So where you get to learn to live in a cross-cultural, cross-linguistic, and multiple world views. Today, Africa is trying to live in harmony with one another while we are competing in a healthy way. That was me at 5 years old. So that's a bit of my village background. You eat or you are eaten. Well, the late Maradona said, "Don't cry for me, Argentina." So I say, "Don't cry for me, Africa." That was my humble beginning. I made it today. When I see a marketplace threat, that young villager in me go like, I've seen this before. So even if I'm under threat, I can still transact. I can still close a deal. Back then, when I was in the workplace, I had to close deal with getting work. And now my last corporate role, my last corporate job was with Deloitte. That's why I closed a number of decent deals with Deloitte and for Deloitte. We did some exciting things there. And I segued into full-fledged deal making, where for about 10 years, I was actually at the forefront of leading a management consulting firm that was all about problem solving to grow companies in tough markets, problem solving to grow incoming companies into Africa, to handhold them and show them about the Africa that we love so that they respect the elders. There's something funny about companies coming from Asia, companies coming from the West and coming into Africa, and they forget to respect the elders. Maybe the elders are not the same elders I had growing up back then. Maybe the elders are regulators. Maybe the elders are officials in government. Maybe the elders are the gatekeepers of your industry. So those companies out there that are seeking to really help to co-create the Africa we want, respect your elders. Hear it from me, the villager. Respect your elders. Last but not least, as you correctly said, I'm very privileged to be the co-founder of Coronate Blockchain. Very short, Coronate Blockchain is all about repairing Africa's supply chains. We are all about using blockchain to repair Africa's supply chains, because Africa's supply chains coming from colonialism. Just last week, the leader of Belgium has been visiting DRC to offer his regrets about how they treated DRC. So when we come from a colonial past as Africa, our supply chains are facing outward, meaning they take value out of Africa towards the West. We need to reverse that so that value is exchanged within Africa, so that we can send maybe not more than 20% value to the West, to our neighbors. We must love our neighbors, right? But we must love our neighbors as ourselves. Right now, our supply chains are just loving our neighbors, we forget ourselves. So that's what current blockchain is all about, using blockchain to ensure that we love ourselves first. Value is exchanged within Africa before we send value to our neighbors whom we love. Thank you kindly. Great to be here. I'm hoping that from my toolbox to those that are present, a bit of deal making will come through, a bit of resilience will come through, a bit of practical solutioning will come through. Because for some that are on the couch looking for work, they don't think about these major forces. They just think about if I can just find work. So hopefully there'll be something in there. Maybe there are also policymakers leaning forward. I know that the YouthUp Global, the Utidia family attract decision makers on the continent. I believe that they'll be leaning forward. Maybe a page from our book, a page from our discussion will help them at a policy level, macro level, but not forgetting at a personal level. Let's put Africa to work. Thank you kindly.
Wow. I mean, that was a brilliant introduction. I told you viewers, you're in for value. So if you don't have your writing materials, I'm wondering what you're still waiting for. Thank you so much, Mr. Shadrach. That was beautiful. I mean, who would think that this is, you had such a very humbling start looking at where you are today. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Okay, from your experience as an employer of skilled labor, what would you consider to be the key drivers of youth unemployment in developing countries?
That's a great question, and I would perhaps, if I may, categorize it into 3 levels in terms of the key drivers, or the forces around youth unemployment in developing countries. The first one are the macro forces, or the macro realities. Macro forces are beyond us, but they impact us. It's a very interesting thing to be mindful of. That it might be beyond your control, but it might still be impacting you. First and foremost, that any economy, whether it's a village economy that is quite tiny, or it's an urban city economy, or it's a national economy for the country, or it's a regional economy, or even Pan-African. Any economy, regardless of how robust, how strong, or how weak, must always obey the basic principles of supply and demand. Supply and demand. So on a macro force level, if you are youth out there and you're unemployed, please don't take everything personally. There are some macro forces at work here that you need to be mindful of what they are, so that you don't beat yourself up and blame yourself. What else is the macro forces? So the macro forces is on supply and demand. There tends to be an oversupply of labor. There tends to be an oversupply of skill than the demand. And I will touch on why the demand is lopsided, or why the demand, or rather why the demand is not catching up with the supply. I'm going to touch on that. So the second point, still on the macro forces, is innovation. Innovation is a macro force that we shouldn't overlook. I'm gonna make it as a singular. You as a job seeker out there, as a youthful job seeker, don't overlook innovation, because innovation can be your friend if you are aware of it. If you are aware of it, it can be your friend. It can work in your favor. If you are blind to it, you got blinkers. Innovation, even if you've got a job, by the way, innovation can push you right out of your job. That's the power of innovation. So don't be comfortable. If you're an employed youth, be grateful, but be mindful of innovation. If you're an unemployed young person, be aware of innovation and realize that your awareness of innovation can actually, pull you into the workplace rather than push you out. What does that mean? I'll get practical. Some of you have heard about blockchain. Some of you have heard about artificial intelligence. Some of you have heard about machine learning. Some of you have heard about the metaverse or Web3 and all this exciting frontier technology. So as you are looking for work, have you ever asked yourself, what this frontier technologies got to do with you? Have you sought to upskill yourself so that you move from having outdated skills to having high value, in demand skills? If you're not thinking like that, you may stay unemployed for a very long time. I'm sorry to disclose that. So you need to be very sober and realize where the cheese is moving. What do I mean by that? If some of you are not reading books, start reading books now. One of those that I will recommend is a very old classic book, very tiny like this. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? I recommend this for those that are working and those that are not working. Why am I saying that? Because Who Moved My Cheese is all about two little mice that were going to a certain corner, looking for cheese in the house. They were enjoying cheese at what is called a cheese station. So that cheese, that cheese was always there in abundant supply, like opportunities, like jobs. The cheese was always there, but one day the cheese dried up, and one mice always had running shoes around its neck. And why did it have running shoes? It's an analogy. It had running shoes because it was aware that one day the cheese station might dry up. And if the cheese station dries up, it must just put on running shoes and bolt in a direction of looking for where the opportunities are. But the other mice never had running shoes, never kept fit, no mental fitness, no physical fitness. So when the cheese ran out, it just collapsed out of depression, poor mental health, and hopelessness. So we are not mice. We are incredible human beings. So we ought to think better than mice. We ought to be forward thinking. We ought to look beyond our personal circumstances. We need to see where the cheese is moving. We need to see where the economy is moving, where industries are moving. Today, you can't speak about manufacturing without speaking about smart factories. So as a job seeker, do you know where Africa's industrialization is going? If you don't know where it's going, it might leave you behind. The bus may leave the station without you. So be aware of innovation, because I'll give you an example. Maybe some of you have studied journalism. You can't really be a journalist today without being specific to a very specific niche. Are you a tech journalist? Are you a content creator? Who are you? You've got competition today. You are competing with content creators, and they are fierce. They are fierce. So you can't think like a journalist of 20 years ago. You need to be part influencer, part content creator, and part brand ambassador. You can't just say, I write articles. That's all I do. I write articles. No, you must create content. When you create content, someone will see value in that and they'll put you to work. So those are the macro forces that we must be aware of. The last one within the macro forces is that, you know how many moons ago, our forefathers like Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, and also the late Muammar Gaddafi, and many others have dreamt about a united Africa. I'm now speaking to the youth in Africa. Have dreamt about a united Africa. Today, Africa is united, and that is both good and that is bad. It's good for Africa's economies to be united under the free trade agreement, but it could be bad for you if you're not aware that you're not competing with the youth in Nigeria for jobs. You're not competing with youth in your neighborhood. You're competing with 1.2 billion people for that job. So it's a borderless economy, and this also applies to our neighbors in Asia and our neighbors in the West. There's a term that came up very strongly during the pandemic. It's called Glocalization. We must pay attention to that term because it means that the industries that operate locally are pulling in global skill, are pulling in global talent. So that globalization is now glocalization. There's such a seamless intersection between global opportunities and local demand. So if you're not aware of that and you think, oh no, I might just be better than the youth in Oyo State, or I must be better than the youth in Lagos, or I must be better than the youth maybe in Accra, Ghana, you are wrong. The cheese has gone global, or the demand for the cheese is a global demand. So you must really up your game. in order to compete with those macro forces. So the next point is, I'm a businessman, I'm a co-founder, and I'm an employer. So let me put it out there about the reality of the business machinery that later leads to unemployment in the developing economy. The first one is entrepreneurship interest. Entrepreneurship interest in Africa particularly is running very low at times. The youth are looking for employment when the youth should be looking for opportunities. There's a big difference between those two. If you're looking for employment, you are looking for somebody to give you a job offer. Here you are, sign here, you are employed. But if you're looking for opportunities, if there's something to sell, you'll sell it. If there's something to create, you'll create it. If there's something to take advantage of an opportunity, you will be in there. So look for income. Don't look for employment. You need to look for income, because income could mean you are the employee, or income could mean you are the employer. So just get out there and make things happen. Solve problems. Remember that 5-year-old villager who had to go out there and hunt and solve problems, how to steer clear of the snakes, how to just think like a problem solver. Then you'll find that the entrepreneurship interest in developing nations is increasing, and therefore jobs are increasing, because we are getting job creators that are entering the market. Maybe later they will hire 10 people, hire 20 people. So don't seek to be an employee only. Seek to be a problem solver, whether that means you are solving problems for a company or you are creating a company that solves problems in your society. Don't put one hat on. Last but not least, let's get Africa moving out of the informal economy where they live hand to mouth and they're struggling, into running practical, sound businesses that can scale. You know, the informal economy means maybe maybe you're selling food on the side of the road, and how about you move out of the side of the road into a fully fledged store? Because when you do that, you need a store assistant, then you need a cleaner, then you need this person, then you also need a digital marketer to market your store. So we need to move from the informal, struggling economy mindset as Africa, as developing nations, into the formal economy, registered businesses that have got books that keep records. We can always allow that practice at markets where our moms are actually just tying up money and putting it inside parts that we won't dare mention. We need to move money out of this. We need to move money out of this and move into where money can be digital. Money can be digital, because when your money is here, you can't pay anyone's salary. When your money is hiding in a small wallet there, and you count it like secretly like this, that money cannot change Africa. That money cannot hire anybody. Money must actually go digital. We must become transparent, and we must think bigger. So the mindset must change. Last but not least, I want to touch on this aspect of the culture. The culture of employment is such that sometimes we wait instead of seeking out there for opportunities. So my last point on this forces that impact labor movements in developing economy is personal. If you lack employable skills, you're going to remain unemployed. If your skills are outdated, you will remain unemployed. And last but not least, if you are not methodic about your job search, you may be searching for a very long time. What do I mean? Treat your job search like it's the most important project. Don't lie on the couch there and be on WhatsApp, be on TikTok, be on Facebook. You need to move towards what is helping you to really find employment. Do you have a spreadsheet of your prospecting? That's what it's called. We mustn't call it job search. We must call it prospecting. So you must prospect with a spreadsheet. You must go like, last month, I actually submitted my CV, or I pitched to 40 companies. So you must be able to do that. You must be able to be on that level. Thank you kindly.
Thank you. I apologize for that.
No worries.
Very insightful discussion. Shadrach, thank you so much. I mean, that was brilliant. We heard amazing words like glocalization. We heard words like who took my cheese. We heard words like do not just seek employment, but seek opportunities. We heard amazing things like innovation is your friend. I mean, this is absolutely very eye-opening. Thank you so much for sharing these brilliant opportunities. And viewers, I hope you are taking notes. I hope you're taking this session very, very personal. Remember, he said we try to love our neighbors, but we don't first love ourselves, So I hope that you're making the most of this opportunity to learn. Thank you so much, Mr. Shadrach. We're going to go on to the next question. You talked about several opportunities. I mean, you mentioned artificial intelligence, you mentioned Web3. You said so many things. Would you be a little more specific? What top promising opportunities can we look out for as young people, particularly in developing countries?
Thank you kindly. When it comes to opportunity, I'm going to speak from my native language, not my native language of where I was born, but my native language of the language I speak every day, which is technology. So that's my native tongue. So I'm going to speak from my native language of the fourth industrial revolution type of opportunities. So firstly, I'm going to say that the first thing is that the real winners in the fourth industrial revolution, the real winners of opportunities in 4IR are those that are either seeking to upskill themselves in order to be tech ready, and those that are seeking to be ready for the unfolding world of 4IR. So there has to be, you could say, but I'm working in manufacturing. Well, manufacturing is becoming smart manufacturing. Are you adding those climate favorable skills where you are using technology to circumvent a climate threat or climate change? You see, so nobody, you could be saying, well, I'm based in Nigeria and I'm a shoemaker. Well, are you upskilling yourself in your awareness of how the climate works in terms of the material you are using, and how the sources of those raw materials are either sustainable or they are readily available? Are you harming the planet? So whether you are going to become climate aware or you're becoming tech aware, maybe shoemakers and clothes makers in Nigeria or in Ghana could come together and realize that digitization is meaning that Africa Free Trade Agreement, it means that they can go more into e-commerce. So via e-commerce, there's about 660 million phones in Africa today. 1.2 billion people are using 660 million phones. So let's not call them phones. Let's call them shopping malls. Let's call them shopping malls in the palm of people's hands. So if shoemakers are not going digital, are not going into the e-commerce side, we're going to have a problem. So, but maybe they're not doing that because they don't have skills to do that. Maybe those digital marketing, those developers, those coders that are in those regions could approach those shoemakers and go like, we've been looking for a job for a long time. Maybe we must look for an opportunity of helping you to go digital so that shoes from Nigeria can be sold in South Africa, can be sold in Namibia, can be sold in Eswatini, can be sold in Zambia. So because policy has made Africa to be borderless, now technology and solution-minded thinkers must now cause those borderless dynamics to see a trade flow of opportunities and exchange. So be mindful of 4IR, be mindful of sustainable development goals. So if you're not thinking like that, you go like, it's somebody else's problem. Maybe your problems will only get bigger. If you're not aware of how your skills fit into sustainable development goals, fit into the UN priorities, fit into the climate change movement, fit into fit into the unfolding digitization, then you are going to be blind to the opportunities that are right there on your doorstep. And of course, when it comes to the entrepreneurs, we mustn't forget that those entrepreneurs that are out there do not create more unemployment with your poor entrepreneurship mindset. If you are an entrepreneur, always seek to own the IP. the intellectual property of the things that you are creating. Because if you own the IP, it means you are future-proofing your company. You won't one day wake up and say, oh my goodness, we didn't own the IP, so somebody took our IP and actually moved the cheese. So we have to close down. We have to close shop because somebody else capitalized on our IP. So employers, entrepreneurs, founders, always seek to own your IP. Always seek to also get your business skills up, because when you get your business skills up, you are future-proofing those that are within your employment. So we all have responsibilities, employers and employees. Employees must become skills aware, skills ready, and upskilling. And employers must really, really think about the families of those that they employ by making sure that they lead responsibly without corruption, and they lead responsibly with sound business acumen, and they lead responsibly by owning intellectual property of Africa in Africa. Thank you kindly.
Wow, 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 wow. Very, very beautiful conversation. Thank you so much. I mean, this is really eye-opening. You know, sorry to say, but then we live in a part of the world, or we live in times when, just like you said, young people feel like, okay, I need a job. I mean, there's no job. All I have to do is just get employed, you know, get a skill, and then everything is going to be fine. And most of the time, there's not so much preparation for these opportunities, you know, that we actually say that we want. So just like you said, you made a very critical point here about entrepreneurs not creating more unemployment, you know, by not being business ready, by not being ready with business skills, you know, to move employment. Thank you so much. Viewers, I know you're enjoying this session. Please remember to like, share, and let the entire globe get to know that Mr. Shadrach is right here, the baron, you know, blockchain baron of Africa. So amazing. Please like, share, retweet, whatever. Ensure that your entire community on social media gets to hear that this meeting is holding. Thank you so much, Mr. Shadrach. We are going to go on to the last question. I mean, this has been very insightful. And don't forget, viewers, remember the book Mr. Shadrach recommended. He said, "Who took my cheese?" Or "Who moved my cheese?" Don't forget to get that book, and I'm sure it's going to be such a blessing to you. Okay. So, Mr. Shadrach, would you say that the government in these developing countries have done enough for the young people in terms of providing employment opportunities?
That's a good question. And I think often the misconception that is quite popular out there is that people are waiting for the government to create jobs. And while the government might be able to employ a certain number of people, the government cannot create jobs. We have to first and foremost be sober about that. Let me give you an example. The government of South Africa, where I'm based, here in Sandton, Johannesburg, is responsible for, at any given moment, for 1.5 million to 2 million jobs, around that. That is in a country of 60 million. And of course, even the government of Nigeria has got those that are employed within the Nigerian government. And at times, yes, it does get a bit of a challenge when it comes to whether the government is taking care of its own civil servants. That's a story for another day. But the government does not create jobs. What the government's responsibilities are is that the people we are voting into power, even now, Nigeria is going to elections. The people that we are voting into power need to remember to create a policy environment that is pro-job creation, meaning the government can create an environment that is quite favorable to jobs being created. What does that look like? Don't overimpose unreasonable tax regimes on job creators, who are the entrepreneurs, who are the employers. I mean, we've got a scenario in Ghana where now there is this rollout of digital tax, or there's this rollout of e-commerce tax, and there's also a scenario in Tanzania whereby the human hair extensions industry, if those entrepreneurial women are bringing in human hair extensions from outside of Tanzania, they are taxed very highly, I think up to 40% in certain cases. But Tanzania does not have human hair extensions. So what are we telling those women? We're telling those women that if they're trying to innovate, if they're trying to feed their families, if they're trying to create jobs, we as the government, or the government on that side, is not treating them kindly, is treating them harshly. We've got scenarios where, what do you call it, at the borders, when African entrepreneurs are bringing things from China, are bringing things from Asia, things from India, at the border post, Nigeria has got an issue, South Africa has that issues, we share that. There is a lot of friction at the borders. There's a lot of friction at the borders where your goods may reach you, I don't know, till kingdom come. You don't know how long you're gonna wait for your goods. You don't know. Sometimes they say you have to pay somebody. Why do we have to pay somebody in order to bring goods from outside and to create jobs within the country? So the government has got a watchful responsibility to ensure that corruption does not exist in our countries, to ensure that trade flows quite smoothly, and trade happens, the exchange of goods and the movement of skills. Now that we've got the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement, that must enable employment across borders, then it means at a diplomatic level, the government or our elders, remember I said respect your elders, our elders must sit down and have tea and coffee together. They must enjoy coffee and talk with one another and say, listen, my people are gonna cross over from my country into your country. Do not treat them harshly. Do not make it hard for them to come and be a blessing to you. And these things exist. If you're to look at the nation of Israel, many moons ago, when the great King Solomon had to build a temple, when the great King Solomon had to build a palace, he brought in about 30,000 experts from his neighboring nation that came in to supplement or to close the skills gap to complete that great temple that historically is spoken about. So the movement of skill and the movement of goods has always been powering trade. So at the government level, our elders must sit together. Our elders must see eye to eye. We have got a scenario recently where the DRC has joined the East Africa regional ecosystem, their own version of ECOWAS. So we need to see a more united Africa and a more engaged Africa. And other developing nations must do the same. We must see the elders drinking coffee and drinking palm wine together without being too heavy on the wine, of course. They must enjoy a meal together so that it's a normal thing for skills from country A to move to country B without fearing attack or fearing judgment. It will be very dumb for Africa to say we are united, but we still go like, hey, foreigners are doing this, foreigner. Who's a foreigner? Who's a foreigner? That's your brother, that's your sister, that's your neighbor. You are compelled to love your neighbor. Yes, there must be a balance of forces where in the case of Huawei in South Africa, where Huawei executives in South Africa were employing, I think, more than around 90% of people from China. You see, now that's going out of hand. One has to always level the play field and be fair to people in your country, but don't hold your country back and say you don't want foreign skill entering your country. That will be stupid. That will make you like Momo. That is really not welcome anywhere. And I think I'm also going to speak from a good place in my heart. I'm hoping that we're not going to have another scenario in future where we hear things like Ghana must go. Ghana must not go. Ghana must co-create. Ghana must co-create the West Africa we want and the Africa we want with Nigeria. So that whole evil, wicked talk of Ghana must go must not come back to our vocabulary anymore. We must see ourselves as a united Africa. So government must make it possible. Government must lower the borders. not the trade borders only, but the cultural borders, the worldview, the wicked worldview of colonialism has got us suspecting each other as Africa. Oh no, they're going to take our jobs. Are you sure? Do you have the right skills that they have? You need to upskill yourself and stop blaming, stop pointing fingers. But the government must not fold their arms and watch as people are fighting with each other. The government must be the referee and say, hey, don't use elbows, don't hit each other. You must live peacefully with one another. So government must make sure that their own country men and women are taken care of, and government must make sure that they don't allow the spreading of rumors or the spreading of xenophobic mindset that are really suspicious of the neighbor. The day that I see an Africa that is more friendly to European visitors than it is friendly to African visitors, maybe that's not the Africa we want. We want an Africa that loves itself and then love the neighbor. So government has a huge responsibility to also make sure that they don't allow this rumor that you must just grow up, get a good grade, and get a good job. That mindset is killing Africa. We must say, grow up and be a solutionist. Grow up and be a problem solver. Whether that shows up with you working for the government or working for the private sector or creating your own company, you must be a problem solver. Problem solvers solve problems. They don't just go like, I just want a job. I just want a job. If I get a job, I will keep it. I will keep it for the rest of my life. That is wicked, and that is the enemy of progress. That kind of thinking is the enemy of progress. So government, create a united environment. Dismiss all this xenophobic mindset, xenophobic talks. You must be the real elders. And as Africans or as developing nations, we must get rid of the colonial mindset where we were taught of being suspicious to each other. We must really bring in skills, and we must export skills. We mustn't talk about things like the brain drain. What is the brain drain? If the brain drain means that you couldn't employ them, now they're getting employed in London, or they're getting employed in New York, let them go. Let them go. If you can't keep them, let them go. So we mustn't bring negative terms like the brain drain. What you call the brain drain as a government, maybe they're becoming upskilled. Maybe they're upskilling themselves to a level that you couldn't upskill them. When they come back, they will show us how to electrify Africa. They will show us how to bring Africa shoulder to shoulder with the West. So don't hold people back that you cannot feed. Don't hold people back that you cannot pay. Don't even hold them with negative talk. Oh, they are leaving Africa. Next thing, they are sending remittances to feed people that you couldn't feed as a government. So let's be fair, let's be reasonable, and let's be practical. Let's create the Africa we want. Thank you kindly.
Wow. Very, very insightful conversation. This is amazing. I mean, this is something that we don't get to hear on a regular basis, particularly the Ghana must go part. So viewers, if you still have a Ghana must go bag. So after this, I hope you get to discard it, because Mr. Shadrach has said, no more Ghana must go, but then Ghana and Africa entirely, let's collaborate, let's come together to ensure that the Africa that we profess to be united is really so indeed and in truth. This has been such an insightful conversation. I hope you shared with your friends. I hope you shared this on social media. Hashtag Utidia, hashtag YouthUp Global, hashtag blockchain, hashtag Kernet, hashtag Mr. Shadrach. Thank you so much. This has been such an insightful discussion, not just because we have people watching, but because we've had the chance to really experience and know that it is beyond creating employment, or is beyond getting employed, but it's about being a solution, whether as an entrepreneur or as an entrepreneur. So whether you are starting a business or you are contributing to the success of another business, you have to first see yourself as an innovator. You have to bring something to the table. And then he talked about glocalization. That means we are moving to a global scale, but then we still need local we need the inputs of local people, if I'll put it that way. So you need to upskill. You need to know, where is the cheese in Africa going? Where's the global cheese moving? Where is it moving? And then move alongside. Upskill. Don't just feel like, okay, I'm a content writer, just like he said, and then you just write articles. You know, there has to be precision. There has to be a lot of tenacity, because there's so much competition, you know, out there in the economy globally. So we have to move not just in the direction, don't just be carried, you know, along with the flood and all of that, but then be skilled enough to withstand the competition. This has been very insightful. Thank you so much, Mr. Shadrach, for this opportunity to come share from your wealth of experience. I do hope that this, thank you. I do hope that this information.
I have just one quick comment for everyone, sure. Even as they seek to leave this show, to leave the Utidia Talk Show, to implement what we told them. I just need to emphasize that, dear job seekers and dear problem solvers and entrepreneurs and creators, remember to take care of your mental health when you're out there. It's very rough out there. So make sure that you are kind to your mental health. Make sure that you are kind to your heart. So make sure that you live a balanced life. Make sure that you get enough sleep. Make sure that you've got positive affirmations that you say towards yourself, and make sure that you keep people around you that are helping you to become gainfully employed, or to be a problem solver, or to become a job creator. Don't keep people around you that give you negative talk. Don't keep people around you that are pushing you down instead of helping you to go up. So if there are some friendship decisions that you must make after this for your own mental health, make those decisions. Don't keep negative talkers and the naysayers in your life. They must go. Ghana must not go, but the negative talkers must go. So you need to make sure that you are kind to yourself. You need to make sure that you are getting enough sleep. You can't lose sleep because you don't have a job. You can't lose sleep because you don't have opportunities or you don't have money. When you don't have money, that's when you must sleep even more. You must sleep not because you are depressed, but you must sleep because you want to wake up refreshed tomorrow and with a clear plan and a clear mind on how you're going to create opportunities. So take care of your mental health, good people. Take care of yourself. Make sure that the family around you is supportive towards you. If they are naughty, you must go next door to an uncle to come and talk to your family, to really show them that finger of an elder to say, I'm going to make war with you if you are unkind towards this young man or young woman. You need to defend yourself. You need to put a wall of protection around you. You need to also team up with like-minded young people that are also looking for opportunities. Don't team up with people that are going to come and show off their cars by you, show off their expensive phones and say, you don't have a phone, look at you, you don't have a phone, you don't have an expensive car. Don't keep those enemies of progress around you. Make sure that you keep people with you that are in your corner and that are fighting with you, that they're not fighting you. So take care of your mental health in these tough times, in these times of the pandemic, in these times of economic uncertainty. Make sure you know who your friends are and be kind to yourself. Love yourself before you love your neighbor. Make sure that your mental health is priority number one, because when you finally get an opportunity, people are not gonna employ, I'm sorry to say this, people won't employ a depressed person. I don't know why. People want you to be sharp, and people want you to be jovial, and people want you to be energetic. Obviously, they must not discriminate against anybody who's battling mental health. But sometimes people want people that are very strong, very healthy, very resilient. Yes, sometimes we get knocks here and there, but those are knocks. It's not a lifestyle where you've got a heavy cloud around you. They say, okay, why should we employ you? I don't have money. I'm going to die tomorrow. No. Let's not talk like that. Let's go like, you must employ me because this is what you are doing. I'm going to add value here. I'm going to move you up over here. I will improve your vision here. Someone who talks like that is someone who's sober-minded, who's clear. Now, people can employ you. And I'm going to say this. I recently lost my granny. I lost my granny about, 3 months ago. But I cannot bring that into a business deal. I can't say, give me this deal because I lost my granny. I'm sorry, I lost my granny. Yes, I lost my granny, but I can't make my emotional battles to bring them into the economic equation. So do not, if you are wounded, we all get wounded. If you are taking arrows, see somebody, talk to somebody about it. Make sure the arrows are pulled out. Make sure that the arrows are pulled out. Make sure that you get medicated. Make sure that you are attended to. You are attended to. Make sure that you get emotionally vaccinated. Become emotionally vaccinated. Don't just take the COVID vaccine. Take the emotional vaccine. Put the right people around you. Think the right thoughts and also focus on the right things, so that when you get out there, people don't go like, why should we employ you? Or why should we do business with you? And the first thing you say, I'm wounded, I'm wounded, I'm wounded, I'm wounded, I'm wounded. No. Nobody wants to hire a wounded person. A wounded person must check themselves into a hospital. People want to hire people that are emotionally sound, and they are very resilient, and they are very positive, and they bring positivity into the workplace. So if you are wounded, most probably you are. Get yourself attended to. Speak to a friend, speak to a health professional, speak to somebody, speak to a pastor, speak to somebody who can help to pull out the arrows, because we take arrows all the time. Mental health. Do not leave those arrows stuck in there, because they may cost you an economic opportunity. That's my parting note. It's been such a privilege. Over to you, Okomo.
Wow. I mean, this has been beyond. Thank you so much, Mr. Shedrack. This is really beautiful. Watching this right now is charged up, is energized, is challenged, to others to better see that if there's going to be a solution, we are going to start from ourselves. We are going to start inwards and then to go outward to the results that we look forward to attaining. Thank you so much, Mr. Shedrack, for such an insightful discussion. It was beautiful getting to hear you speak about the role of the government, particularly. A lot of people seem to have lost hope about the government, but then with your insightful share, it's obvious that there is still a role that the government has to play to ensure that businesses, employees, or individuals have a smooth running in our individual countries. Thank you so much one more time. And to our viewers out there, I am sure that you too are wowed. I mean, it's been such a brilliant discussion. I'm sure that your time was not wasted. It was properly invested. And I look forward to having you on our next edition. Yes, just so you know, this is only the beginning of the Utidia Talk Show. I mean, this is just the beginning, and it is this wow. So you can imagine what's coming next month and in the coming months. I look forward to having you viewers. Thank you so much. One more time, thank you, Mr. Shedrack. Can you please type in the comment section, say shout out to Mr. Shedrack, say shout out to Coronet Blockchain for releasing him, and also a beautiful shout out to his pretty wife for also releasing him to come share this wealth of experience with us. Thank you for trusting YouthUp Global, for believing in our vision. Thank you so much, Mr. Shedrack. Do have an amazing time. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Faith. Thank you very much. Thank you to YouthUp Global. Thank you to Dr. Faith. Thank you, worldwide viewers. You guys are amazing. You made this show possible. Thank you, Utidia. Thank you, the entire YouthUp family. You are amazing. The collaboration has been seamless, and this event is finally running. So we look forward to more amazing discussions. You can look out for our guest for next month. Just keep guessing, keep your fingers crossed. It's going to be amazing. Thank you very much, and do have a wonderful weekend.